The first thing I noticed was the smell of rain on hot asphalt, that strange electric mix that always hits before a storm. The second was how empty the road had become. I was driving north through Pennsylvania, somewhere between Reading and Scranton, late evening, headlights slicing through humid air. My GPS had rerouted me off the main highway because of an accident ahead. I didn't think twice, just followed the detour into darker, narrower roads that wound between low hills and tree lines. When I saw the cemetery sign, I almost didn't register it. A rusted green board with peeling letters, St. Matthew's Burial Ground. The arrow pointed right, down a smaller road. I wasn't planning to stop, but the rain had started to spit, my windshield fogged, and I needed to stretch my legs. I figured I'd pull in for a few minutes, maybe check my tyres. The entrance was an open iron gate, both sides rusted orange. The gravel crunched under my tyres as I rolled in. The headlights picked out rows of tilted stones, slick with rain. Beyond them, the woods pressed close, thick and black. I cut the engine, leaving only the ticking of cooling metal and the distant hum of insects. For a second, it was peaceful. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Then something moved. It wasn't much, just a shape, a quick flicker at the edge of the light beam, near the far end of the lot. My brain registered it as human before I could rationalize it. Someone walking between the headstones. I switched on my high beams. The light swept across the graves, catching raindrops in mid-air. Nothing there. Just marble, grass and fog beginning to creep along the ground. The longer I stared, the more the air seemed to tighten. The drizzle turned heavier. I stepped out to check my tyres, boots sinking into soft gravel. My headlights reflected off the wet stones, each one looking almost alive under the sheen of water. As I crouched by the front tyre, I heard it, the sound of a door closing. A car door. I shot upright, staring at my vehicle. Both doors were still shut. I hadn't heard another engine, hadn't seen any lights on the road. Yet the sound was unmistakable. Solid, close, metallic. I scanned the cemetery. The fog had thickened now, hovering just above the grass. The rows of headstones looked warped through it. Somewhere inside the haze, a shadow shifted. I couldn't tell if it was near or far. The wind picked up, cold against my skin. My car's interior light flickered once. Then again. The rational part of my brain started cataloguing explanations. Shorted wiring, condensation, tricks of the light. But the other part, the primitive, older part, was screaming to get back in the car. I turned to do just that and froze. The driver's side door was open. I hadn't heard it unlock, hadn't touched it. But it stood wide, light spilling weakly onto the wet ground. The smell of old fabric and rain filled the air. Inside, the engine light flashed once, then off. I reached for the handle, hand trembling slightly, and shut the door. The sound echoed across the graveyard, louder than it should have been. I got back in, slammed the locks, started the engine. Static hissed from the radio, even though it had been off. I twisted the dial, but the noise only grew louder, like whispering through distortion. Then it cut out completely. For a moment, everything was silent except for the soft drumming of rain on the roof. Then something hit the back of the car. A single, heavy thud. It wasn't debris or wind, it was deliberate. My breath came short. I shifted into reverse, craning my neck to look through the mirror. But the rearview glass was white, completely fogged from the inside. I wiped it with my sleeve. Handprints. Several of them. Pressed from the outside, faint but visible in the condensation. I slammed the gear into drive and hit the gas. Gravel spat from under the tyres. I didn't care where the exit was. I just needed out. The fog seemed to close in faster than I was moving. The headstones flashed by like white teeth. My headlights cut through nothing but grey. I couldn't find the gate. The road I came in on had vanished behind a wall of mist. I slowed, pulse hammering in my throat. My hands felt slick on the steering wheel. I flicked the wipers faster, but it didn't help. The fog was inside now, creeping through the vents, cool against my skin. The windshield fogged again, this time from both sides. Shapes formed within it, human outlines, faint and shifting. For a heartbeat, I thought they were reflections of the trees. Then one turned its head. I floored it. The car fishtailed on the wet gravel, clipped a low stone and bounced hard. My headlights flickered out completely, plunging everything into darkness. The only sound was the engine whining as I fought to steer straight. Then a light appeared ahead, a dim, yellowish glow through the fog. I aimed for it, heart hammering, assuming it was the exit. But as I got closer, the shape came into focus. It wasn't a gate light. It was a lantern, hanging from an iron post beside a small crypt. The light swayed slightly, though there was no wind. I stopped the car, engine still idling, trying to decide if I should back up or drive straight through the cemetery fence if I had to. Then I saw movement near the crypt. Something crouched low, too fast to identify, ducking behind the stone. Every nerve in me went cold. The rain had almost stopped, replaced by a fine mist that clung to everything. My headlights flickered weakly back to life for a second, and in that flash, I saw footprints in the mud leading toward the car. Not old ones, fresh. The ground was soft enough that they were sinking even as I watched. I couldn't tell if they were approaching or receding, because the next second, the lights died again. The darkness inside the car felt alive. My reflection in the side window seemed delayed, like it was moving a fraction slower than I was. When I blinked, it didn't. Something brushed against the outside of the passenger door. A light scrape, like fingertips over metal. The locks clicked. Once, twice, then unlocked themselves. I lunged for the switch, jamming them back down, but they popped up again, mechanical, resisting me. I killed the engine and everything stopped. The sound, the movement, even the air. The silence felt wrong, so complete it hummed in my ears. Then the rearview mirror tilted downward by itself. Slowly, deliberately. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. Through the small reflection, I saw the back seat. Empty at first. Then, as my eyes adjusted, a darker shape began to form, something seated directly behind me, barely visible. My pulse slammed in my throat. I twisted around, but the seat was empty. When I looked back to the mirror again, the shape was gone. That was enough. I started the car and floored the accelerator. The tires screamed against the gravel. The fog broke apart in streaks, and for a second, the iron gate appeared ahead of me, wide open. I didn't hesitate. I drove straight through it. Once I hit the main road, the fog vanished almost instantly. Behind me, the cemetery was nothing but a dark smear in the rain. The first gas station I found was about 4 miles down. I pulled in and cut the engine. The rain was still coming down, steady but soft. When I looked at the rear of the car, my stomach twisted. Mud streaked the bumper and trunk, smeared in long, uneven lines, like someone had dragged their hands across it while I was driving. On the side window, faint in the condensation, a message traced in a single finger. Go back. I wiped it off with my sleeve, but the outline remained, etched faintly into the glass like it had been burned there. When I got back on the road, I kept my eyes on the mirrors. Every time I blinked, the reflection of the rear seat seemed darker than it should have been. I didn't stop again until daylight. By then, the dirt had dried to dust, the message still faintly visible on the window. I scrubbed at it for 10 minutes, but the glass wouldn't clear. In the right light, it still spelled the same 2 words. And no matter where I drive now, empty road, city traffic, rain, or sunshine, sometimes I still see fog in the mirror, just for a second, always behind me.